Modern Hollywood has long become way too safe. Today, movies are afraid to shock the audience, afraid to be gritty, violent, or truly insane. But back in the 70s, the rules were completely different. This was the era of exploitation cinema, a time when movies were released that studios today would never dare to touch. Women's prisons in the middle of the jungle, prisoners chained to each other, escapes, gunfights, and women who were more dangerous than the guards themselves. This was the birth of the women in prison genre, the most scandalous and profitable trend of its time. Gritty, wild, and absolutely shameless cinema, out of whose aesthetics Quentin Tarantino's films and the entire Grindhouse culture would later grow. Today, we take a look at 10 of the most insane exploitation films of that era, from hellish jungle prisons to riots, shootouts, and manhunts in the middle of a tropical hell. And trust me, what's sitting at number 10 will look like a light warm-up compared to the movie we've saved for number 1. So buckle up, you're in for some real cinematic madness. Number 10. Black Mama, White Mama, 1973. We start our countdown with a movie that is the absolute definition of 70s Grindhouse energy. Released in 1973, Black Mama, White Mama is a brilliant, action-packed masterpiece that took a classic premise and turned it into pure cinematic gold. The plot is simple, fast, and incredibly effective. Two female prisoners, played by the legendary Pam Grier and the fantastic Margaret Markoff, are being transferred to a new facility. Pam Grier plays Lee Daniels, a tough, street-smart prostitute, while Margaret Markoff plays Karen Brent, a dedicated revolutionary guerrilla fighter. They absolutely hate each other. They come from completely different worlds, have different values, and have nothing in common. But fate plays a cruel trick on them. During a violent ambush on their transport bus, they manage to escape into the wild, lawless jungle. The catch? They are securely chained together. Now they have to survive in a brutal tropical hell while being hunted by everyone. They are chased by corrupt police officers, ruthless bounty hunters, and even a gang of deadly criminals. The dynamic between the two lead actresses is phenomenal. The constant tension, the sharp, witty dialogue, and the sheer physical brutality of their journey keep you glued to the screen. What makes this movie so special is its incredible pace. Director Eddie Romero wastes absolutely no time on boring drama. Instead, he delivers non-stop action, high-stakes car chases, explosive gunfights, and that beautiful, gritty atmosphere of 70s exploitation cinema. It is sweaty, violent, completely unapologetic, and incredibly fun to watch. Fun historical fact, this exact movie was the main inspiration for Quentin Tarantino when he was creating the dynamic between his characters in many of his famous films. Black Mama, White Mama prove that women could lead massive, profitable action movies and absolutely dominate the box office. If you want to see where modern action cinema truly began, this classic is a mandatory watch. An incredible entry to kick off our list. Number 9. The Big Dollhouse, 1971. Moving on to number 9, we have the movie that officially started the massive global explosion of the women in prison genre. Directed by the absolute king of exploitation cinema, Jack Hill, The Big Dollhouse is a raw, shocking, and incredibly influential piece of film history. The story takes us deep into a brutal, isolated prison camp hidden in the steaming, humid jungles of the Philippines. Here, a group of beautiful but dangerous women are kept under the iron fist of a sadistic warden and his cruel guards. The prisoners are subjected to psychological torture, hard labor, and terrible conditions. Among them is Collier, played once again by the mesmerizing Pam Grier in one of her very first major film roles. Alongside her is a diverse cast of rebellious women, each serving time for different crimes but all sharing the exact same burning desire: freedom. Instead of breaking their spirit, the cruelty of the prison only unites them. The girls stop fighting each other and start planning the ultimate high-stakes prison break. What follows in the second half of the film is absolute cinematic madness. The escape sequence is filled with raw violence, chaotic machine gun fire, dangerous explosions, and fierce hand-to-hand combat. These women do not wait to be saved. They take heavy weapons into their own hands and unleash absolute hell upon their oppressors. The Big Dollhouse perfectly balances dark, gritty exploitation elements with a surprisingly strong sense of dark humor and camp style. Jack Hill created a film that is deeply atmospheric. You can almost feel the tropical heat, the sweat, and the mud through the screen. It is shameless, provocative, and packed with memorable scenes that shocked audiences back in 1971. This movie set the golden standard for every single prison film that followed it for the next 2 decades. It is a wild, thrilling ride from start to finish, and it completely deserves its legendary status in the world of grindhouse culture. At number 8, we have a film that plunges us right back into the deep, dark, and sweaty heart of the classic prison exploitation era. Released in 1971, Women in Cages is a raw, intense, and shockingly brutal look at survival behind bars. This movie is notorious among Grindhouse fans for pushing the boundaries of what could be shown on screen, delivering an incredibly tense and grimy cinematic experience. The story follows 3 beautiful female prisoners who are trapped in a remote, high-security penal colony hidden deep inside a dense tropical jungle. This isn't just a regular prison, it is a literal living hell on Earth. The facility is run by a sadistic, cold-hearted warden named Alabama, played with terrifying perfection by the legendary actress Judy Brown. Alabama takes absolute pleasure in torturing, humiliating, and breaking the spirits of the women under her control. The prisoners are forced into hard labor, kept in horrific conditions, and subjected to brutal punishments. As the cruelty reaches a boiling point, the inmates realize that staying in this place means certain death. Their only chance of survival is to put aside their differences, unite, and plan a high-stakes, desperate escape into the dangerous, uncharted jungle. The second half of the movie turns into a relentless, non-stop manhunt. The girls are hunted like animals by heavily armed guards and ruthless trackers, leading to explosive shootouts, bloody machete fights, and intense action sequences. What makes Women in Cages stand out is its uncompromising, gritty atmosphere. The film doesn't hide behind clever camera tricks. It shows the dirt, the sweat, the violence, and the raw desperation of the characters. It is a wild, shocking, and deeply atmospheric ride that perfectly captures the rebellious, lawless energy of early 1970s cinema. A dark and unforgettable cult classic that is a mandatory watch for any true exploitation fan. Number 7. The Big Birdcage, 1972. Moving on to number 7, we have a high-octane masterpiece from the undisputed king of the genre, Jack Hill. Released in 1972, The Big Birdcage takes everything fans loved about prison exploitation and cranks it up to maximum volume. The story centers on Terry, a high-society girl who accidentally gets caught up with radical jungle revolutionaries. She finds herself wrongfully arrested and thrown into a brutal women's prison camp, where inmates process sugarcane under the watchful eyes of sadistic, corrupt guards. But things get truly explosive when the rebel fighters outside, led by a charismatic revolutionary played by Sid Haig, launch a massive armed raid to break the women out. And of course, dominating the screen is the legendary Pam Grier, playing Blossom, a tough, fearless undercover rebel who coordinates the uprising from within. The moment the breakout begins, the movie unleashes pure, chaotic grindhouse madness. We are talking about non-stop explosions, wild machine gun battles, and savage hand-to-hand combat as the prisoners completely overthrow their oppressors. The Big Birdcage perfectly balances raw, gritty violence with incredible dark humor and a groovy 70s soundtrack. It is dangerous, highly stylish, and features some of the best action set pieces of the entire era. A masterpiece of pure entertainment that you definitely need to see.
Number 6. Caged Heat, 1974. At number 6, we have one of the most unique and stylistically brilliant masterpieces in the entire history of the genre. Released in 1974, Caged Heat is incredibly famous because it marks the directorial debut of Jonathan Demme, the very same man who would go on to win an Academy Award for The Silence of the Lambs. The story follows Jacqueline, a young woman sentenced to a strict, isolated women's penitentiary. Inside, she discovers a terrifyingly corrupt system. The prison is run by a cold, wheelchair-bound warden and a lunatic doctor who performs dangerous medical experiments on the rebellious girls to completely erase their personalities. Instead of breaking, Jacqueline forms an alliance with a group of tough, hardened inmates. Together, they organize a brilliant, multi-layered escape plan that quickly escalates into a massive, violent riot. The second half of the film is packed with intense action, raw shootouts, and an incredibly satisfying climax where the women take total control and unleash absolute hell on their tormentors. What makes Caged Heat stand out is Dem's incredible direction. He fills the movie with artistic camera angles, vivid dream sequences, and a phenomenal blues soundtrack. It is a smart, gritty, and fiercely independent film that beautifully subverts the rules of exploitation cinema.
Number 5. Run, Angel, Run, 1969. Moving on to number 5, we are breaking out of the prison walls and hitting the open asphalt with one of the most intense biker exploitation movies ever made. Released in 1969, Run, Angel, Run is a raw, high-velocity thriller that perfectly captures the lawless counterculture energy of the era. The plot centers around Angel, a tough member of a violent outlaw motorcycle gang who has grown completely sick of the criminal lifestyle. He wants out. To fund his new life, he sells an explosive tell-all exposé about the gang's illegal operations to a major national magazine for $10,000. With the cash in hand, Angel and his beautiful girlfriend hit the highway, desperately trying to start over in a peaceful, quiet town. But you don't just walk away from a lawless biker gang. The club views Angel's article as the ultimate betrayal, and its most ruthless members hit the road on a bloodthirsty mission of revenge. What follows is a relentless, high-octane game of cat and mouse across the American landscape, leading to an incredibly violent, high-stakes confrontation. Run, Angel, Run is a fantastic cinematic time capsule featuring an incredible, roaring soundtrack and authentic chopper culture. The action is heavy, realistic, and moves with the speed of a revved-up motorcycle engine. An absolute pillar of the classic exploitation era.
Number 4, Terminal Island, 1973.
At number 4, we have a film that takes the prison exploitation genre and elevates it into a massive dystopian action thriller. Released in 1973 and directed by Stephanie Rothman, one of the few female directors working in the era, Terminal Island is a gritty, energetic movie that heavily influenced future mainstream hits like Escape from New York. The premise is absolutely ruthless. In a near future, the death penalty has been abolished. Instead, the government takes the country's most dangerous murderers and drops them onto a remote island in the middle of the ocean. There are no cells, no guards, and absolutely no rules. The island is completely dominated by a tyrannical warlord named Bobby, who has enslaved the weaker convicts and forced the female prisoners into horrific conditions. Everything changes when a tough, rebellious young woman named Carmen arrives. Instead of submitting to Bobby's cruel regime, she unites a group of independent freedom fighters. What follows is a brutal, high-stakes guerrilla war for control of the island. These outcasts construct makeshift weapons, lay deadly traps, and launch explosive hit-and-run raids against the tyrants. Stephanie Rothman brings an incredible amount of style.
Number 3. Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS, 1975. Moving on to number 3, we have reached what is undisputedly the most scandalous, notorious, and heavily banned film on our entire list. Released in 1975, Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS is the absolute pinnacle of shocking hardcore exploitation cinema. It is a movie that pushed boundaries so far that it was banned in dozens of countries for decades, making it a legendary holy grail for hardcore Grindhouse fans worldwide. The film stars the unforgettable Diane Thorne as Ilsa, a ruthless, cold-hearted, and completely unhinged commandant of a brutal medical research camp during World War II. Ilsa is a woman obsessed with power, control, and a bizarre sadistic theory. She wants to prove to her superiors that women have a much higher pain tolerance and strength than men, making them superior soldiers. To prove her twisted theories, she subjects the camp's prisoners to horrific medical experiments, psychological torment, and absolute brutality. The movie is a relentless, claustrophobic nightmare of survival. The tension is turned up to maximum volume from the very first frame. However, the true turning point comes when a brave, resilient prisoner named Wolf decides he's had enough. He begins to lead a secret, highly dangerous underground rebellion among the captives, planning a massive, violent uprising to completely destroy Ilsa's empire of pain from the inside out. The final act of the movie collapses into pure, chaotic madness. The breakout sequence is an absolute bloodbath filled with intense violence, explosions, and raw, savage combat as the prisoners unleash all their stored-up rage on their captors. Ilsa, she-wolf of the SS, is definitely not a movie for the faint of heart. It is dark, it is provocative, and it is completely shameless. It stands as a monumental time capsule of an era when cinema was completely lawless, dangerous, and utterly unafraid to shock the world. At number 2, we have the ultimate, definitive crown jewel of the entire 1970s action era. Released in 1973 and directed by Jack Hill, Coffy is a roaring, high-velocity masterpiece that shattered box office records and turned the mesmerizing Pam Grier into the undisputed queen of badass cinema. The story follows a fierce, highly intelligent nurse named Coffy. Her life is turned upside down when her 11-year-old sister gets hooked on contaminated drugs supplied by a ruthless criminal syndicate. When Coffy realizes that the local police are too corrupt to stop it, she decides to take the law into her own hands. She crafts a dangerous undercover persona, moving deep into the dark criminal underworld to systematically eliminate every pusher and corrupt politician pulling the strings. What follows is an incredibly satisfying, non-stop thrill ride. Armed with a sawed-off shotgun, razor-sharp wits, and absolute fearlessness, Coffy unleashes a brutal campaign of street justice. The film is packed with iconic action set pieces, explosive gunfights, and unforgettable style, all backed by one of the greatest, grooviest funk soundtracks in cinema history. It is a powerful, unapologetic masterpiece that proved a woman could lead a massive action franchise. And at number 1, we have reached the absolute peak and the most influential exploitation movie ever created. Released in 1974, Foxy Brown is a cultural phenomenon so profoundly iconic that its DNA can be found in almost every modern revenge thriller, including Quentin Tarantino's direct cinematic tribute, Jackie Brown. Once again starring the brilliant Pam Grier in her most famous role, the film follows Foxy Brown, a tough woman whose life is destroyed when her undercover boyfriend is brutally murdered by a vicious drug syndicate. Driven by unyielding rage, Foxy wants total, systematic vengeance. She goes undercover as a high-class callgirl, infiltrating the gang's inner circle to initiate a ruthless war against a criminal empire. The second half of Foxy Brown is pure Grindhouse madness. The film cranks the action up to maximum volume, delivering a relentless stream of high-stakes escapes, explosive shootouts, and shockingly creative revenge sequences. Pam Grier delivers a powerhouse performance, perfectly blending incredible charisma, deep emotional pain, and absolute lethality. Backed by a legendary soul soundtrack, this film stands tall as the greatest, most unstoppable exploitation masterpiece of all time. And there you have it, the 10 most insane, wild, and absolutely shameless exploitation masterpieces of the 1970s. These films prove that long before big Hollywood budgets and safe, censored scripts, cinema was a lawless frontier packed with raw energy, dangerous action, and pure creative freedom. Which of these gritty cult classics are you going to watch first? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the legendary era of Grindhouse and cinema without breaks, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty of dangerous, forgotten film treasures coming your way, and you definitely don't want to miss them. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it gritty, and I will see you in the next video. Drop the curtain.